All right, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Brothers BS. It's been a little while since we recorded anything and uploaded anything. We have been quite busy. Today we were only able to get two of the brothers together, but this might be the start of a little bit of a spin-off because we're going to be talking about something that we plan on continuing to talk about in later episodes as they come out, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means once we get to it. But today we are going to be delving into something that we didn't find until we were almost 40, and we sound like big geeks for it, and we are big geeks for it. But today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter. So sit back, join the conversation on the Brothers BS. All right, so it has been a while since we recorded. You got anything to share? Anything that you've been doing? Partying nonstop?
Oh yeah,
of course?
it's a big party at my house. No, we're getting ready to send our oldest to college, so we're
That's rough.
yeah. So we're dealing with that. Nobody was around when I was college age to show me how to do all that. I didn't go back until
Yeah.
I had kids already.
Yeah, I was already married when I was going to college, so it wasn't really like I guess mom and dad had that when it was like, hey, he's married now instead of he's going off to college. So
Yeah, that's true. So we're dealing with application deadlines and scholarship applications and ACT scores and all that fun stuff. So
you all have to do the reference letters and stuff like that.
no, well, some of the schools that he's still looking to apply to a couple, but some of them you'd have to do reference letters for. But that's more when you're going into your master's or postgraduate stuff a lot of the time. So this time should be smooth sailing.
So I am a college graduate. You are a college graduate as well. I got into college and got my degree, and I have no clue. I don't think I ever filled out a piece of paperwork. My wife did it all for me, and I have no clue how it happened.
well.
So somehow, somewhere along the way,
Somebody applied and got accepted. And,
so who knows how that happened. Anyway, so let's give a little bit of background about why we're talking about this today. So which on one of the episodes, I believe we did discuss briefly Harry Potter, and I was the only one at the time that was at all interested in it. Of course, you watch the movies whether you like it or not, and they're good movies whether you like it or not. But about 6 months ago or so, Priscilla and I started reading the books. Priscilla liked to read in the waiting room and stuff like that. So we started reading the Harry Potter books, and I would start doing the voices and being ridiculous. At the same time, just to get a feel for how I should do the voices as I was doing it, I started listening to the audiobooks. And I just really started to enjoy them. The movies are fun. The movies are good. Yeah. Having read the books, being one of those people, gosh, there are so many flaws in them. That's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today. But I really kind of fell in love with the story, and I do have to say, as of right now, this is my favorite series of books. And it's odd saying that as a almost 40-year-old man, finding Harry Potter and thinking it, but I think it really is good. And we actually had a discussion, you and I, off air, and this is probably going to get me a lot of hate, even within our family. But I told you that I think J.K. Rowling is a better writer than J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh.
Not a better world builder, and that's what I said to you, but a better writer. She has a better way of engaging and telling a succinct story than he does. I think from start to finish, she is a better storyteller. Now, her writing improves, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well when it comes to the books. But I have grown to be a huge fan of the books, the story, and there is a place in my heart for the movies because I saw those first. But here recently, something else that's come out, and you and I have you've actually listened to the whole thing. I'm in the middle of it right now, but they have brought out a full cast audio. So for the next couple months, they're going to be bringing out every book as a full cast audio every month, releasing a new one. So that's something that I think we're going to kind of come back and revisit. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Sorcerer's Stone. So you and I have both finished the books total and gone back and kind of done this re-listen.
Right.
So we're going to try our best. Of course, we're going to fail at this, but we're going to try our best to stick to each book. There are things that we'll talk about
I'm sure.
all over story, of course. In fact, we're going to be talking about some of the foreshadowing that you get in the first book today. But for the most part, we're going to try to stay in this. Something else I thought would be kind of fun is relating the book to the movie and things that they could change. And of course, we're 20 years behind anybody that's ever done this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Anything. So a lot of our opinions and everything. Well, one, I don't think I've watched anything on that, would be my own, but doesn't mean we're the first to say any of this.
Right.
So hopefully we'll come up with some original ideas along the way, though. Finally, what I want to say is this is going to be, again, part of the Brothers BS podcast. Just this may be a little thing that you and I do separately. So again, we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or if you're on the British side, it's the Philosopher's Stone. So I read through it. I listened to it first, then I read through it, and then I listened to it again, and then I'm doing another listen. That sounds really bad. Of the full cast audio. So let's talk a little bit about first the story of the thing, how it relates to the films, and kind of what we would change for it. Now, I think during the writing of this one, she was still very much thinking this was a children's book.
Absolutely.
This is definitely the most childish one. Not really super big sense of danger, more like adventure. And, you know, there is a part at the end, of course, where something terrible could have happened. But for the most part, it's very much adventurous and almost like an 80s film where kids were the lead. Doesn't mean I don't think she did a good job, but there are a couple things that are in this one that I'm surprised come up in other books, and some of it doesn't link to the other ones, because you could tell, you know, I don't expect that she knew exactly what was going to happen in the 7th book when she started writing the
Right.
first. I'm sure she knew in the 7th book Harry and Voldemort were going to fight.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was really cool, something that I thought was very strange that they put in the movies, because when the movie came out, I don't exactly remember the year. I think it was 2000 or 2001.
Well, book came out in 97, right?
I believe so. I think 2001 was the first movie. But what I thought was interesting is the fact that they included the Illuminator. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. But
They call it the putter-outer at
fr-
the beginning.
from Professor Dumbledore. The reason I think that is so interesting is because that holds such an important part of the story in the 7th
for
book.
Ron. Yeah, the Illuminator.
Ron.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is a lot of times in Hollywood movies, they don't really necessarily pick up on everything in the book. And the fact that they did include that for such a brief amount of time really kind of shocked me, because it seems like such a one-off little like cool thing that Dumbledore has, but it turns out it's very important. in the
Pretty
second
big
book.
deal.
So it's kind of fascinating that they did include that in the first movie, because at the time, the 7th book wasn't out yet. So they didn't know how important that was. So I wonder at that point if Rowling was on set and kind of thought, you know, hey, maybe we should include this. Or
I would think so. And
or it could have been, hey, it showed this in the movie, so it's important that I bring it back, and, you know, chicken and the egg situation, but we don't really know.
I think one thing Rowling does, and I disagree entirely about the Tolkien thing, but one thing Rowling did really well, and that's in my chapter 1 notes, the Boy Who Lived chapter, is that she did plant seeds that she could build her world on. So Tolkien is the classic example of hard world building. He built all of Middle Earth before he wrote the books. Or, you know, there was some tweaking, but he had a pretty strong understanding of what he wanted everything to be, and the lore and the history. And Rowling is more soft world building, I think. She wrote this really fantastical story. I agree. I think it was meant to be more of a children's book, especially the
I
interaction.
think probably only the first book, though.
Yes.
I think after that,
well,
it matures
Prisoner
very
of
quickly.
Azkaban, I think, is when it really started to.
Well, that's when the movies kind of ramped up
Yeah.
as far as darkness and dark tones.
Yeah. I think she was so good at planting seeds of, You know, she talks about Daedalus Diggle in the first chapter.
Sirius Black.
Sirius is mentioned, yeah. And I don't know that she had a full plan, a full outline of what that was going to look like at that point, but she gave herself those story threads where she could pluck them when it was time. And
Right.
most authors now aren't capable of doing that without beating you over the head with it.
Yeah.
And
I thought one thing that was interesting in the first chapter of the first book, only because I've read the other ones, is Dumbledore apparated to Privet Drive. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how he wasn't there and then he was, and there was no noise.
no sound.
But
Yeah.
later on, it talks about every time people apparate or disapparate, there's a pop.
Does it with Dumbledore though when he's going to the
Well, it also talks about
Deathly
Dumbledore
Hell- or
is able to
Horcrux?
go invisible
Without
a. So Dumbledore may
he's a different animal altogether, I think.
he is the ultimate wizard of this world.
Yeah, the other seed that I think she planted. So the interaction between Minerva McGonagall and Albus Dumbledore in the first chapter, she paints such a good picture of what their personality is without saying Professor McGonagall's a really uptight person and very
Dumbledore's
strict
kind of whimsical and laid back.
and a bit pompous. Like Dumbledore's problem, you find out later, is a little bit of hubris. He was
Right.
really high on himself. He knows
Well,
his
he knows that
capabilities.
he's the greatest.
Right.
Right.
But he shows a little humility there by saying that Voldemort, I'm used to the audiobooks now, had powers that he would never have. And Minerva says, only because you're
You
too...
refuse to
yeah.
do them. Yeah, that's pretty cool too. I think also something that I noticed about this book, and we could go chapter by chapter, I guess, if you wanted to, but something else I noticed about this book is for this to be Harry Potter's first year, and Harry Potter being such an important character in the world of wizarding, for it to be his first year at Hogwarts, Dumbledore seems to be a little bit too laid back. He doesn't seem to be quite, and you find out in the 7th book kind of how much interaction he had and how much Snape, he told Snape to kind of, be involved in it. But it is interesting that it seems to be a little bit more like he is just kind of like held back from him completely, kind of like at arm's length the whole way through this one. I mean, he's the one, of course, that gives him his invisibility cloak. He sees him in the mirror of Erised. But for the most part, it's not like he's not really concerned about anything. And I feel like he would be a little bit more alerted. And he probably was. But again, I don't know if she knew that yet.
I don't think
And
so.
I think a good example of she didn't quite know what the book was yet or where she wanted to go with it, with his introduction to the people of Hogwarts. So I'd like to say a few words, and he says like 5 random words instead of saying, anything important. And he is whimsical throughout, but he's not quite.
And his third middle name is Brian. Yeah, just fun little.
Yeah, he's not quite that whimsical throughout the rest of the series. Now, what I did appreciate of the books that the movies didn't quite do, past Prisoner of Azkaban, it's all serious. There are a couple jokes here and there. Mostly Ron is like a comedic.
And Ron's so much better in the books. They
much
turned
better
him
in the
into a
books.
ne'er-do-well in the movies because they needed that role filled because it's a stereotypical role. Ron in the books is incredible. Like, he does make some stupid choices, but a lot of times he's given really good insight to Harry on the wizarding.
Well, what I think is interesting, and this is something that'll come later, of course, but I think all the predictions that him and Harry do
For Lonnie, isn't that so
all of them
good?
come true.
So good.
Like, you're gonna possibly drown, and it turns out one of the the third task or second task of the Triwizard Tournament. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I'll go ahead and refer to my notes here. There's quite a bit. Sorry about my dogs, everybody. They like to make sure that nobody in the neighborhood is doing anything like they are patrolling it. What I think is something. Now I am looking. I'm sure that you are not, but I am looking forward to the HBO series in hopes that they do a great job, because I have fallen in love so much with this story. But one of the things that I have noticed that they're doing in the HBO series is it seems that they're going to get the characters' ages correct.
Because
in the movies they did a really bad job. Not to say that I didn't like the majority of casting in the movies. There are some that I would probably have done differently, but for the most part, I think they cast fairly well in the movies. But everybody was too old.
Yeah.
Uncle Vernon shouldn't have been that age,
The
that guy did a great
the
job.
Stranger Things phenomenon too. It took place where it takes longer to produce a movie
Right.
than a year
Well,
of
Daniel
school.
Radcliffe could probably still play an 11-year-old
that's
kid. So, I think he's great, but man, he looks young. And God bless him for it.
Yeah.
So, but the ages seem to be right, because when James and Lily Potter died, they were only 21 years old.
Right.
And that means Snape, Lupin, Sirius, Peter Pettigrew, they would have all been the same
32,
age.
right?
Yeah. So it's
32
11
when
years
Harry
after
started.
That, right.
Yeah.
So, Alan Rickman, I think when they
Oh, wait,
started
it's
filming,
actually
was
only
probably 50.
10 years after, because Harry was a year old when
That's true.
Billy
Yeah,
and
only
James
10, only
died.
10 years, yeah.
So,
So 31.
31, and Snape, Alan
Yeah,
Rickman.
which Alan Rickman,
He's amazing.
man,
He was great. Snape.
fantastic. But I think they're going to get the ages correct in that. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how that goes. Something that I thought was quite funny, and it's literally like a throwaway line that Hagrid and Harry have, but when they're going through Gringotts on the little train,
Park.
they see stalagmites and stalactites, and J.K. Rowling puts in just a random one-off joke of nothingness. And Harry says, "I can never remember which one is stalagmite and a stalactite." And Hagrid says, "Stalagmite has an M in it."
It's just a good,
That's like an old dad joke.
It's a good Hagrid line too.
So
Hagrid's
funny.
Such a good character.
So funny that they did that.
Now he was a perfect cast, though. I think
We're
he
going to
was
talk a little
so
bit about
good.
that. Now, I think Robbie Coltrane was amazing as Hagrid. Personality-wise, was perfect.
Yeah, the friendliness.
I think Hagrid needs to look a little younger. I know he is the same. He's 50 years, but he's a giant. One, but two, it talks a lot in the book about his musculature.
Yeah.
And like it talks about his arms being very muscular and all this other stuff. And he was pretty much covered up the whole time, so you couldn't see. But he did look hefty, instead of like bulky. And so that's one of the only things that I would say that he wasn't perfect.
I love how she explains Hagrid in the book as looking too big to be allowed.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Something I thought about, and this happens throughout the books as well, but I guess when I started noticing it the most was in Prisoner of Azkaban, when Hermione gets Crookshanks, but it doesn't really ever mention anybody else's pets other than Ron, Hermione, Harry's, and Neville's. Neville's Toad, of course.
Trevor.
Everybody else was allowed owls, toads, rats, whatever, and it doesn't ever mention like cats.
Cho, what is it, book 5, when she meets Harry in the owlery and she's sending her out with the...
But they have school owls.
Yeah, there's school
So,
owls
there
too,
could
but most of them...
I just thought that, I had Pigwidgeon. Pigwidgeon.
I love Hagrid's comment in the first book when they're on Diagon Alley about how he wouldn't let Harry get a toad because he'd be ostracized because they're out of fashion. You know?
To be laughed at.
Yeah.
So something that I found kind of interesting also, and I talked about this with you before, and until I had read the books, I didn't realize, but I talked to you about this before I had read the books, but there's not really a good Slytherin character, like good, or I thought there wasn't. They kind of all paint them out to be almost like
Who's
cartoon
the Parker,
villains.
Who's the Parker girl?
Parkinson.
Pansy Parker.
Parkinson.
Oh, Parkinson, that's right.
They're almost like cartoonish, like 19 kind of
bullies.
villains. But you got Slughorn in the 6th and 7th. That was not bad, not good. He was in it for himself.
He was a Slytherin.
But once the Battle of Hogwarts happened, he stayed put and he fought with them. But Hagrid actually mentions in the first book, and I believe they may have been in Diagon Alley when he said this, but he said no wizard who's gone bad didn't come from.
Right.
And at that time, that wasn't true. Even he knew that.
At a later book, he says most dark wizards came from Slytherin.
But at the time, of course, she probably didn't know where she was going with it. But Sirius Black, they thought at that time,
And
was
later,
bad. And
Peter Pettigrew
Sirius Black was a Gryffindor.
in a family of Slytherins.
Right.
So
Yeah. And, you know, you got to think about, like, in the second movie with, what's his name? Gosh, why can't I think of the Professor
Oh, the good looking one,
Lockhart?
Professor
Gilderoy Lockhart.
Lockhart. Yeah,
He was probably, I would say, a Ravenclaw or a Hufflepuff. And he was not, it was pretty evil
was a
what he
bad
was
guy.
doing.
Yeah,
he
he was a bad
completely,
guy.
he completely, zapped people's memories so he could take
Steal their glory.
steal their glory.
I have a note here. I went chapter by chapter for the first little bit, just adding little thoughts.
Okay.
And so chapter 2, when the glass disappears and Dudley, falls in with the boa, I put that I really think that's maybe the only scene in the book that the movie did a bit better job of. In the book, the snake realizes that he can talk to Harry before Harry talks to him, I believe. There's never any precedent set that the snake is who can tell who can speak parcel tongue. It's usually once he speaks to the snake, then the snake realizes that he can understand. And in the movie, he says, something basic, like, I understand. I'm sorry that you're locked in there or something. And then the snake's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
it's the first person that's been able to talk to me.
Right.
So that's the only scene in the book that I think the movie did a much better job of.
Yeah,
Which the movie's great. And really, if we're comparing book to movie, Sorcerer's Stone is the closest to a shot-for-shot remake. I mean, it was...
I think the rest of the movies felt rushed.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't truly, and this could just be my stupidity, but I didn't truly understand the story of Chamber of Secrets until I'd read the book, because I think the second movie feels so rushed that kind of goes over. Like, Jenny is the one that opened the Chamber of Secrets. Well, why did Jenny open the Chamber? Unless you're really paying attention, I think it's hard to kind of pick up.
And Tom Riddle does that big exposition at the end where he says, I've been in her ear all year long. But in the book, it really shows Jenny, like, there's just little
foreshadowing.
Yeah, where she starts to weep.
Yeah, and you think it's because of something else,
right,
like something.
Right. And you're worried about Percy because he's got a secret, which is just a girlfriend, know. But Rowling did a fantastic job of
a couple
earning
things that I think they should have done. I don't like how they did the story of Norbert, of course, in the movie. I think that was such a great part in the book where they have to sneak Norbert up.
Well, and it introduces Charlie.
Yeah.
And, like, the Weasley clan is my favorite. Okay, Molly is maybe my favorite.
Molly is
character in all of the books. Like, she is incredible.
She is.
Arthur's
fantastic.
great.
Oh, I love. There's a couple parts where Arthur, which we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I love how paternal Arthur and
maternal Molly is.
They're just such great parental figures.
Yes, and Harry never had that.
They're so fun, and it's almost like they're kind of like, when it comes to Arthur's job and everything, it's almost like he's kind of a pushover. But as soon as somebody offends or seems to be hurting Harry in any way,
when you get that
immediately
Chamber of Secrets when Arthur and Lucius Malfoy are in the bookstore.
Yeah. That's something that I think the movies did better also. I like that Arthur didn't attack Lucius. I like that he was the bigger man.
Oh, I think he was...
I thought it was cool in the book. I thought it was cool in the book that they fought, but I feel like he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I liked how they played that better in the movie. But what I'm talking about is actually at the beginning of Goblet of Fire, when they go and pick up
for the
Harry
World Cup.
for the World Cup, and they end up breaking through the wall. And Harry's like, well, bye then to the Dursleys. And Arthur said, did you not hear what he just said? Like, he got pissed. He's like, you don't, like, this is your nephew. You should love your family.
Yeah.
And that's just, I love, and that it shows such an antithesis with the Malfoys and the Weasleys that, this one's so warm, this one's so cold.
And Draco was a perfect casting.
Oh, yeah. I think
incredible.
Tom Felton, I believe is his name. I think he deserves so much more. I hate that some of them got lumped into being Harry Potter characters.
Is he playing Lucius?
No, he is playing. He's currently playing Draco on Broadway for The Cursed Child.
Okay.
which the cursed child's a huge mistake.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
I know the story. I haven't read the story, so maybe at some point I'll read the story and give it a full review. But from what I understand of it, it is a huge mistake. It's something that Rowling didn't write herself.
Yeah.
She just signed off on, got a big paycheck for. But I don't think
Good
she
on her.
would have. Yeah,
Right, but
before. They talk a little bit about it in the movie, but it's mostly in a comedic fashion. But Harry is very much abused.
well, the
by
day at the
Dursleys.
zoo, he talks about it being one of the best days of his life, and he has to eat Dudley's
Leftover
half-eaten ice cream cone.
He says the only way that he got something is because the lady asked before, Vernon and Petunia could like sway him away or whatever. He had to eat Dudley's leftovers pretty much.
When they're in the cabin, she makes Dudley a bed with all the good blankets, and then Harry has to curl up in the floor with the worst threadbare blanket in the cabin. Yeah, Harry had a really rough go. I actually wrote that in one of my... So in chapter 4, when they're going to the cabin and Vernon's freaking out, Harry talks or thinks about how he's always had a fantasy of a long-lost family member coming to take him away. And so I wrote down, I wonder what Harry would have ended up like had Sirius not been thrown into Azkaban.
Right.
Like, would Harry still have been heroic? Because Sirius was a lot of things, but the titular hero, he's not.
Right.
His moral compass isn't always true north.
Well, he's a spoiled, rich,
Yes,
good-looking
absolutely.
guy
And I think Harry would have...
until he goes to Azkaban.
Yeah, Harry would have ended up with a lower moral fiber, I think. And so
Maybe
it had to end
but
up
there's
the way that
something
it
in
did.
Harry because Harry should have ended up worse than he was because
Yeah,
of what
that's
the
true.
Dursleys were.
Which the magic that was... I mean, again, you find out in book 7 or book 6,
Right.
the magic that's on the Dursleys' home has an effect. And it was from Lily's love for Harry
Yeah.
and for her sister.
Right.
Um,
But there's a theory that all of this is in Harry's head because of how abused he was. And that's kind of an interesting theory because it is something that's glossed over. It's odd, but
Yeah.
he is tremendously abused. I mean,
well,
it
and
is
his life in the wizarding world isn't that great either.
It's-
Like
it's really
every
not.
year he goes to school, he's framed for something.
Yeah.
And
Now, being somebody who watched the movies for 20 years before reading the books, I used to joke around with everybody who liked the story of Harry Potter, and not say I didn't. I enjoyed the movies. I'd probably watch them once a year just because I thought they were fun. But I wasn't in love with the story. I didn't like the characters as much as I do now. But I used to joke and say that Dumbledore is the worst person in the whole movies because he doesn't do anything. It's like there's no intervention, and I didn't understand the Prisoner of Azkaban, not the Prisoner, Order of the Phoenix at all.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
he missed why he was staying away.
And I was like,
yeah.
gosh, he's terrible. He lets Harry do everything, doesn't intervene whatsoever.
They started that in Goblet of Fire. So in the book, when Harry's name comes out of the Goblet of Fire, and he has to accept the post because you have to go through with the Triwizard Tournament, and they send them off into the antechamber outside of the Great Hall. In the book, Dumbledore comes in, they're all talking, and he says, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? And Harry says no. In the movie, he comes running in and grabs him by the shoulders and is like, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Well-
like, that's so not Dumbledore.
Well, Michael Gambon had a very different way of playing Dumbledore
Yes.
than Richard Harris, who was the first one.
Oh, I know. Richard Harris was so good.
I think so too, but I think there was something from both of them because imagine what you're supposed to feel about, which they didn't do super well in the movie, I don't think, but imagine what you're supposed to feel about Dumbledore at the end of Goblet of Fire when he breaks into Moody's office. Imagine Richard Harris. You
yeah.
can't because he doesn't have that.
That's
Michael
true.
Gambon did have the intensity, and I don't hate how they did that scene. That is like a huge thing in the Harry Potter world that everybody talks about how he played that scene. I think he at that moment, that's when everything became very real to him.
About Voldemort.
And I think he was very scared for Harry. I thought that was played out pretty well. Now, from what I understand, the director of Goblet of Fire never read the book. So that's probably why that's my least favorite. It was my least favorite before I ever
Mine
read the
too.
books. I never liked that movie at all. I didn't like how their hair was longer, like they were cool and hip.
Yeah, it was
I
that
didn't
year.
like that. It's just... It was
Yeah.
bad. But I think somewhere between Richard Harris, which I was going to talk a little bit about casting anyway, things that we may have changed, things that we thought did well. But I think somewhere between Richard Harris and how Michael Gambon played Dumbledore would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Because you want him to be whimsical, you want him to be almost feel. There's a lot of times when Harry will be like, he looked so old in this moment,
But then he does something.
but then he does something like
Which that's a very Gandalf thing, which
right.
Dumbledore was obviously inspired by Gandalf. And Gandalf in the books looks old and feeble, but occasionally does a physical feat that's well beyond what his body looks like it should be able to do. And the thing about the did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Even when Dumbledore is dueling Voldemort in the Ministry of Magic, he's not scared.
No, but that's part of his intimidation.
Yes.
He knows that that's the scariest thing because
Oh, absolutely.
he knows,
And it is.
Tom
It's freaking
Tom
awesome.
Riddle or Voldemort knows that Dumbledore's not scared of dying, and that's the scariest thing to.
And Voldemort's
to
terrified of death. I think
Right.
Dumbledore says that at some
Yeah.
point. Or it might be Remus when he's talking to Harry. I don't remember exactly who says it, but somebody tells Harry that's Tom Riddle's weakness is that he's so scared of death.
Right.
Like that's his biggest fear.
Yeah.
And that was Dumbledore, and it's not really Harry and Voldemort that are polar opposites. It's Dumbledore and
Right.
Voldemort.
Well, Harry and Voldemort are polar opposites when it comes to morality.
yes.
Dumbledore is not. Dumbledore probably could have been swayed, and he was, in some ways, swayed by the
Hubris.
easy route.
Well, he liked
there's
fame. That was his in his youth when he was with Grindelwald.
Let's see a couple of the things that I think something else they missed out on Sorcerer's Stone is the trials that they had to go through to get to the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes,
There
and I
could have
don't
been
know why
such,
they.
the potion one I thought was awesome.
So cool, and
so
it showed
cool that
Hermione. Like
being
she should have been Ravenclaw. I think Hermione was coaxed into Gryffindor by Dumbledore because there's no reason she
doesn't
should have.
she
been
talk
there.
about it later on? That the hat thought about putting her in
Yeah,
Ravenclaw, and then she
like Slytherin
yeah.
with Harry. Yeah, her moment to shine in the book got completely left out of the movie.
yeah
And then a lot of the things, my big complaint was a lot of the things Hermione and Harry talk about in the movies, it's Ron and Harry.
yeah.
And so you don't
Well,
get
they
this-
wanted to make Hermione be the smart one and Ron to be the goofy one in the
Yeah.
movies, but Ron is
carefree, but he's not dumb.
That's a good way of
Yeah,
good way. Of
he's not
explaining
dumb.
it. Yeah, he
And
has some.
That's
good
where the
ideas.
groundwork for Harry and Ron's friendship comes
Right.
from. Is in that first book when, like, by happenstance, they end up in the same car on the train, the Hogwarts Express, and then from there they're fast friends.
Right.
He shares chocolate. Harry shares chocolate with him. Ron's just happy to have somebody with him, and he says something for the first time in his life. He had something to share, and for the first time, someone to share it with.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, that's
great.
And then that connection just,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so devastating in Deathly Hallows when Ron kind of turns on Harry, and
Right.
it's under
Well,
the
same
influence
thing
of Slytherin's locket.
Goblet of Fire too.
Yeah. Oh, and that part in the
same.
book is so good because Harry's not innocent in it either.
Right.
Like Ron gets mad at him, and then Harry gets mad back.
Yeah.
And
if that's the good thing about these books because we read them as adults. I've read them at
Yes.
36 years old, and I think to myself, my goodness, they could have solved this with 2 sentences but they're communicating like teenagers.
absolutely.
And she does such
wrote
a
them
brilliant
so
job.
well.
And I've thought about this. There's a part in Stephen King's It, which you and I both have read as well, where Ben is telling the story about him being fat and how he lost the weight
with his coach.
And there's a part where he talks about telling off his coach, and Bill says the writer in me wants to know whether or not a teenager really spoke like that. And Ben says, I think if we wouldn't have gone through what we did, I wouldn't have said it. But I did say it. And there's so many parts in this where, I'll be listening to Order of the Phoenix or I'll be listening to Half-Blood Prince, and I'm like, gosh, they sound so mature in what they're saying right now. But what they've been through. I mean, at this time, they've literally had 5 years of avoiding death.
Yeah.
And
every year.
right? It's crazy.
At
Let's
least
still
Harry,
go back to Hogwarts.
right? Goblet
you know?
of Fire. At least Harry is.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I think that's just one of the many ways that she just understands writing very well. And she, of course, you can see such a progress in her writing
Oh yeah.
style, and she just becomes such a better writer. You know, and I've talked to you, and I don't assume that she knew in book 1 what she was going to do in book 7, or even in book 4 what she was going to do in book 7. But there are some things that I'm like, gosh,
She had
I
to have a
bet she
thought
had
about
an
it.
outline. Because
Yeah.
there's the part, of course, at the end of, and again, guys, we've tried to stick to one book, but for heaven's sake,
can't.
we'll continue to do this. But there's a part at the end of book 4 that I never picked up on in the movies, but where he talks about, and Dumbledore asks, what did he do with your blood or whatever, or how did he get your blood? And there's a part he talks about helping him come back to life by using Harry's blood. And Harry says, and it seemed like I saw a twinkle in Dumbledore's eyes, but I guess it was my imagination, basically, is what he's saying. But Dumbledore knew at that point that Voldemort had linked the two of them even closer. And that was just something that
That's what allowed for Harry to look into Voldemort's thoughts.
right.
And Voldemort couldn't tolerate being in Harry's because he had Lily's blood in him.
Yeah.
And it pained him, that love, that connection between them when he tried to make the connection, just couldn't tolerate it.
So I think the movies also made Snape a little bit more likable than he should have been.
Yes. Alan Rickman's so likable
I think
anyway.
Snape was unnecessarily cruel in the books. And
impetuous.
He shouldn't have been.
Yeah, he was almost like a toddler getting angry at Harry.
Yeah.
And it's great because that's another seed that you learn later why.
Yeah, it shows him a little bit with Lily and James.
Yes.
But like I was listening today, and it's the first time he's in the potions classroom, and he's just a dick.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Harry. And
Hermione
he could have
for
been
speaking out of turn.
He could have been such a great character, which he is. He is a great character because you do need something like that. But he could have been such a great character if they would have had some kind of that warming up. But that's something else that I think the movies did such a great job on, was Snape's death scene. Because in the books, of course, in the Deathly Hallows, when Voldemort has Nagini attack Snape fatally, and Harry goes in there, Harry tries to save him. He's like, I don't know why I'm trying to save him, as in the book. And the last thing that Snape says to Harry is, look at me. I think that was done really well in the books. But in the movie, he says, look at me. And then he says, you have your mother's eyes. And I was like, boom, that's awesome. And then you, of course, find out the full.
Well, and
full.
the
And I
Dove
wish so
Patronus
much.
and-
I wish so much that I would have been reading these books when they came out, because the storyline there are parts of it that are so cool with that. And I really wish I wouldn't have known that Snape was really a good guy. And I wish that I wouldn't have known
Snape, that's my other argument. Snape wasn't a good person.
he wasn't.
He was
wasn't
not a good person.
He wasn't a good person.
I want the story. I don't want the Cursed Prince or whatever it is.
Daisy may get down.
Or what's the new one? The
Cursed Child.
Cursed Child. I don't want that. I want the story of James after he was a turd
Yeah, 'cause
becoming
you
a good person.
That's something that is lacking in the book, because you never get to
And
see that.
Hagrid
And I
says-
hate James still to this day. Hate
Hagrid says
James.
Lily and James were two of the best wizards you could ever meet.
Yeah.
And so I want to know how James became that, because he wasn't.
Well,
He
that
was-
would be a great spinoff, because then you could have the Longbottoms,
Oh yeah,
which would be great.
Oh, and Bellatrix gets to come back in because she's such a good character.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have. I honestly, that's going to be the hardest casting in the show, if you ask me, is Bellatrix.
Yes,
Because Helena Bonham Carter was so perfect.
Yeah,
And
even the sunken eyes. She's such a
well,
method
and I
actor
like how
anyway.
it talks about her in the book, that you could tell at once she was good looking.
yeah.
And
Well,
I've always
Narcissa
thought,
is.
I've always thought
Narcissa
Helena.
is.
Well, I think they should have cast Narcissa as
She was
to be
not
a
cast well.
better looking.
Yeah.
Not to say I think she did a good job acting. I think she should have
She-
been better.
Her part was really minimized in the movie too, and
Yeah,
Narcissa
she was
played
so-
a little bit
yeah.
better, bigger part. especially with the unbreakable vow between.
Well,
her and
there's
Snape.
such a redemption, I think, for Narcissa. Now it's all based around her wanting to see Draco, but I think there is a redemption.
That she walks
story.
away from the Death Eaters. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that she's the one that lies to Voldemort about him being dead,
oh yeah.
and so
And she says, "Is Draco in the castle?"
it's
That's
Draco,
right. I haven't.
yeah.
I need to read through or listen through that one again.
yeah. But yeah, that's. I think. Go ahead.
I would like to see practical effects in the show.
Well, from what I understand, they are doing a lot of practical.
Yeah, the troll scene aged very poorly. Any CGI ages so bad.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's so close to the book, but that CGI just looks like a potato all the way through that scene, and it's a fun scene, and that's what brings
But
Hermione. And they didn't do Hermione being kind of on the outs with them until that moment. They just did they're friends, and then Ron says something that hurts her
Right.
feelings.
well,
In the
that's
books, they didn't like Hermione very much
at all.
She was busy.
Well, I like it. I like what it says after that in the books. It says they from that point on they were friends. Something about dealing with a troll.
Yeah, it brings people together.
people
yeah,
together. I
yeah,
thought that
it's
was-
so
I thought that
good.
was really
It's
good.
such a good,
But
and it's so true when you're a kid too. Sometimes it's just that one thing that makes
Right.
you free. I remember in kindergarten, my first friend that wasn't one of my brothers in school, I was wearing a Terminator 2 shirt.
Judgment Day.
Yeah, and another kid was too, and his name was Ryan, and we became great friends because we had the same T-shirt on our first day of kindergarten.
So one of my friends to this day, Shane Winters, him and I are friends because we both liked the movie Double Take in 6th grade.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we talked about Double Take. We
Double
quoted
Take.
Double Take. Eddie Griffin and Orlando Jones.
Yeah, okay. Schlitz
Mother's
Potluck.
cookies.
Yeah.
Mother's damn cookies.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of how kid friendships, but again, I always go back to, you could tell by just who the director was, which was Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus is the director of Home Alone 1 and 2.
Knows
And
kids.
He does kid movies very well. They thought it was a kid's story.
And the first book very much is.
Yeah.
Until the
The
end.
second one
Till he
kinda
melts
is.
Quirrell. That's
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. Oh, one of the best lines in the book, while I'm thinking about it, is when Dumbledore is explaining why Harry was able to get the Sorcerer's Stone. And he talks about it being one of his cleverer bits of magic. And that for me, and between us, that's saying something. I'm like, oh, that's such a Dumbledore line. That is incredible.
Which, okay, let's talk a little bit about the casting. We can talk about the casting which I don't know how I feel about the casting for the show yet. I'm going to go into it with as open of a mind as I possibly can. We'll talk about just Sorcerer's Stone for right now, unless it links to other movies. And so we have, I don't want to talk about the kids because you got to find kids. They got to be kids.
They are what they are. Yeah.
We've already talked about
And unless you're
Petunia.
Flanagan, you're not going to get as much out of them as.
Right. We've already talked about Petunia and Vernon kind of being a little bit too old.
Petunia had the
they played it.
mannerism perfect.
I thought both of them played it very
Yeah.
well. I think they just needed to be younger,
I needed more mustache from Vernon.
more mustache. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
When I was reading them to Priscilla, every
I was
time the
seeing
word
Wilford
mustache
Brimley
comes out,
type of.
I say
type of-
mustache.
Calls it a walrus.
Walrus
Walrus,
mustache
like
or broom.
No, the toothbrush is Barty
Crouch.
Crouch. Yeah.
Hagrid, I think, was brilliant. Robbie Coltrane, I think,
Yes,
is going to be
agreed.
very hard to beat. Now, for the show, it's going to be Nick Frost, who I am a huge fan of.
What was
I
the name? I haven't looked at
so-
any of the casting.
So, Shaun of the Dead, he
Okay.
is Ed. So, Shaun is Nick Frost.
the roommate.
Simon Pegg. And yeah,
the roommate that
Nick
that
Frost is
has
his
a job,
roommate,
not the
right.
yeah.
and ones that ends up being a zombie that he keeps.
Okay,
as a
yeah,
pet.
I could see that. I could see him. Pulling. He's
I think
a good actor.
I think they could have gone a little bit better. I like him. I think he is good. I think he's great. Has great comedic timing. I don't think he's going to have. You need to have somebody, and I think that's why the audiobook does really well. And I'm interested to see how it goes. Not the full cast audio.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where it goes when you see Hagrid being a little bit more assertive.
when Vernon's talking about Albus and
Yeah, that part right there he did really well. But I'm thinking about in Order of the Phoenix when
he
Umbridge
fights
comes.
when he fights the
Yeah.
Orderers. Oh man,
that's going to be
it's
awesome.
such a good.
But I think he's not going to have that part of Hagrid that I think he needs.
Maybe he will.
And
He's pretty English, and there's not a lot of savagery there unless you're Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
I think it. Well, the guy that played Robert Baratheon, which I can never remember his name, but he's the one that does it in the full cast audio. But I think he does
He's
really
so
well.
good.
He was really good on that part when he said, "Never insult Albus
Yeah.
in front of me." I thought he did really well there. He kind of had that but the intimidation factor, I don't think Nick Frost is going to be able to pull off.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the show doesn't suck. Like
Hopefully,
that's
gosh, I want it to be
hope
so
one,
good
because
it is something. I think the first 2 seasons are still going to be a little bit harder to get through than the rest of them because it is more of a kid's
Goonies.
story.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of excitement that happens other than what's going on with Sorcerer's Stone.
And the Basilisk in
Basilisk,
Chamber of
yeah.
Secrets. They did a good job of that in the movie, though. That was
They did a pretty good job, yeah.
Pretty good scene.
Yeah, a little mixture of
Again, the CGI didn't
practical
age
effects
well with the Phoenix, with Fawkes, but
Well, he was also a puppet at
Yeah.
one point as well.
yeah. And I don't mind the puppet
yeah.
when he's doing the tears on the wound. Yeah. I don't mind puppeteering. That ages much better than CGI does.
Well, and it's a phoenix. We don't know. That's not a real thing. We don't know what it's going to look like.
Says you.
So Dumbledore in the movies, first 2 movies, Richard Harris, I believe was his name. I think he was a little bit. Dumbledore was supposed to be old, which he's 170 or something like that. But he needed to be a little bit more youthful, a little bit
Lithe.
more springy.
Yeah.
I think he was a little bit too old. I liked his demeanor a lot of the time, but I think he needed a little bit more youth.
I think he was a little too magnanimous, too, because he didn't mind making a joke or, poking fun with people in the books.
Right.
In the movie, he's a little more nose in the air kind of.
And I think that shows in the second movie, they didn't know yet what the relationship between, they didn't know quite what the relationship between Snape and Dumbledore was. And in the movie, when they come in from the car, they end up in Snape's office. Snape is yelling at him. And Dumbledore comes in there and says something, "I'm surprised you won't be expelled," or something like that. And Dumbledore says to Snape, "Severus, that's up to me," or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of like a demeaning way of
And
saying he would have never
never-
done that. And one of my favorite parts of the books, and I don't even remember what book, I'm pretty sure it's in the 5th one, is Harry. I think it's when Harry's yelling at Dumbledore in his office, which is a great scene. But he keeps saying Snape, and every time he says Snape, Dumbledore says Professor Snape.
Yeah.
Like, put some respect in your voice when you're talking about my people,
Which that's another really awesome thing that she brought together at the very end with Snape. Dumbledore didn't necessarily trust Snape because he was trustworthy. He trusted him because he told Snape that if he loved Lily, that he would do what Dumbledore said.
Yeah.
And he knew that Snape loves Lily so much that he was going to do it no matter what.
So we've talked about Dumbledore. Let's talk before we move on. So John Lithgow is going to be playing him in the show. I personally don't love that casting whatsoever. Now, I've seen pictures of him. He looks great. He looks great in the role.
Well, he's an incredible actor.
He has the energy. He has the whimsy. Maybe he would have the authoritative presence.
Yeah, if you think about what was the movie with Denzel Washington,
Raising Cain. No,
Ricochet. He was a pretty good villain in that.
Oh yeah, he
was able to pull not that Dumbledore's a villain, but to pull the anger, the that again that they didn't do that scene justice in Goblet of Fire when Dumbledore comes through that door and Harry's.
I do think they did the scene the meeting up between Voldemort and Dumbledore in Order of the Phoenix really well in the movies though.
Yes.
That entire thing, that sequence was incredible.
Yeah, visually stunning.
I wish they would have focused a little bit more on Dumbledore staying calm like he was in the book,
Yes.
because he does like look like he's straining a little bit too much in the movie.
Harry even mentions that it sounds like he's having a conversation with somebody he likes, like
Right.
just a
Yeah.
just a casual stroll through the Ministry of Magic, throwing these amazing counter spells and just so good.
So, Minerva McGonagall, I don't know how you're going to beat Maggie Smith.
No, she was incredible.
Now, I know the actress they've got playing her in the show, and she's incredible. I think she can pull it off.
Who is she?
She's a nice-looking woman. She's probably in her 50s. I've seen her in other things before, and I cannot place what I've seen her in.
Okay.
But she does have a very similar vocal range, if that makes any sense, with Maggie Smith. Kind of that stern... but
terse.
McGonagall is probably in my top 5.
She's awesome.
Yeah, starting in book 5
Yeah.
when she's up against Umbridge, for power on some of the parts where
The part where
she is awesome.
Umbridge backs her down, you can see from then on that made Minerva mad,
Yeah.
and she is so cool. Yeah.
So you got Minerva, you got Quirrell, which will be, I thought was cast fine. He's kind of not really I kind of hope they make him a little bit more of a part, and because he does, watching it, knowing of course what happens, you can pick up on all the things, but you don't pay attention to him at all, and I guess that may have been the purpose. But I don't think that guy was like outstanding in his role.
No, and he didn't pull the twist very well, because he wasn't an intimidating
right
kind of guy. And he is when he decides to stop cowering and actually,
Yeah. And I guess they would have to, which the rumor is it's Killian or Cillian Murphy, however you say it, is going to be Voldemort, which will be incredible.
He'll be so good.
He's phenomenal.
Yes, he's...
So they're going to have to cast him for the first movie, because they've got to at least use a face and voice, which they have ended up changing in the movies. From 1 to 4, which Ralph Fiennes, of course, played him in the movie. So you got Snape. So Snape in the movies was Alan Rickman. Again, he was phenomenal, fantastic.
Younger guy this time.
Needs to be younger. Yeah. So the big controversy for this one is they've changed the race of Snape. It's now a black guy. I've not seen him in anything. The only thing that I'm scared of when it comes to, which they did this in The Cursed Child, so they made Hermione black in The Cursed Child. The only thing that I'm worried about changing that is it's going to feel, just because of the way the political climate is in the world right now, it's going to feel like James and the Marauders are picking on Snape
because of race,
instead of the other thing. Same way with Hermione. Somebody calling Hermione a mudblood seems worse if Hermione's character is black, because it feels racial as opposed to what's going on with her parentage or her lineage. So I'm going to go into it with an open mind. He could be phenomenal. He's too good looking of a guy.
Yeah.
You'll have to, I don't know if you've seen the picture.
No, I haven't.
He's a very handsome guy, and I don't think that's.
No, he's supposed to be greasy headed, and
I think if he was younger, and I'm not the first one to say this, but 10 years ago, I think Adam Driver, who played Kylo Ren, I think he would play against Snape. He's not a good looking guy. Mm-hmm. He's got the hook nose, like it's talking about him having.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I think Snape needs to be less attractive than that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to go into it with an open mind. Nick Frost, we've talked about, as Hagrid. I'm not really in love with the guy that does the audio book or the full cast audio as Snape. How do you feel about
Snape? No, he went more like the impetuous child.
He sounds a little bit more like I imagine Lucius Malfoy sounding.
Yeah. Yes.
He needs to sound a little bit. This is ridiculous, but when I read as Snape, I do a little bit more of a kind of raspy, airy, kind of grit. and not so much pompous. Like
Yeah.
that's how I hear Lucius Malfoy or Fudge sounding, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not crazy about that. Let's go back to Dumbledore for just a second, just because we forgot to mention the full cast audio, which is one of the reasons I want to talk about this on the podcast.
Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie is doing a great
He's
job.
so
I think.
good. Yeah.
I'm really, really interested to see him, of course, in Order of the Phoenix, when Dumbledore really starts to show himself as
the
being
office
that,
at the end.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
that assertive character, with all that power. So I'm really excited. But I think Hugh Laurie's doing a really good job.
He's great in everything that he's
So, Lucius Malfoy is going to be in the next full cast audiobook. That's going to be a hard one for me. I think he did a really great job.
in. What was his name?
I want to say his name's something Isaac or Isaac something.
In the movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just watched the behind the scenes, and he talked about he came in to read for Gilderoy Lockhart because he didn't want to play a villain because he had just done Captain Hook in a Peter Pan movie and didn't want to play back-to-back children's villains, he said. And I'm like,
no, he's
you're a
Lucius
villain.
all the way.
You got a
yeah.
villain face, man. Like, from The Patriot, I've never seen you as
Yeah.
anything but a villain. Sorry, you played it too well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
He's Lucius too.
Yeah.
Like when you picture Lucius.
Which we'll talk about this in the next time we talk about Chamber of Secrets. But I've got some big gripes with him as a character.
Okay.
In the movies, I think he did great, especially when it comes to like the later movies.
Yes.
Half-Blood Prince.
And Deathly Hallows when he looks.
I mean, Deathly Hallows.
Like he's been tortured over and over.
Yeah.
Like he looks. He did a great job.
But Chamber of Secrets, it's something I'd like to see in the show. Is I do want to see a little bit more about the full trials that they have to go through to get to the Sorcerer's Stone. I want to see Norbert's departure.
Yes, and
think-
it like that hurts Hagrid really bad
Right.
having to give up Norbert,
Yeah.
and they took so many parts out that where you get to know the ins and outs of Hagrid's personality.
Well, I think it's so important also because I think they did really well in, was it Half-Blood Prince that they stopped going into Hagrid's class and Hagrid kind of gets a little pissy.
Yeah. Oh, the Newts when they
Blasted and screwed. So that's in the fourth one. But I think it's after they're done with it is the Half-Blood Prince after they're done with their OWLs that they stop going to Hagrid's class.
they don't take his NEWT.
NEWTs. That's what you're saying with Newts. I'm sorry.
Newt. Yeah, sorry. It's Alan Newt.
So I would like to see them bring in a little bit more of like the Nifflers that he has in the fourth book.
Yeah.
The Blast-Ended
Blast-Ended
Scroots.
Scroots didn't even get mentioned.
And that's why, because they love Hagrid so much that they tolerate all that stuff.
Well, and the other, I
kinda
don't remember the other
need-
professor, but she's a much better teacher.
Grubbly Plank.
Yeah,
Grubbly
she's a
Plank.
much
She's
better,
a better
teacher than
right.
Hagrid is. Yeah.
But I think they should definitely do a better job on the Norbert part because you want to open that door for later movies because you want them to be scared of Hagrid asking them to do things sometimes because that's a kind of an important part.
Because he thinks all creatures
he thinks all creatures are beautiful and need something. So I would love to see that. I would like to see some more of Quirrell.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize this because, again, I watched the movies first, so I was just picturing the whole time him wearing the turban. But apparently, he doesn't have the turban on when he meets Harry Potter for the first time, so Dumbledore's not possessed
Voldemort,
him yet.
yeah.
Voldemort's not possessed him yet. And so...
He's still under the direction of
Right.
Voldemort, but he hasn't,
he hasn't
decided to take over
Right,
his...
he hasn't been possessed yet. So I think that would be kind of an interesting thing. And I think maybe like having a little bit of while he explains, once he's figured out to be, under Dumbledore's, why do I keep saying that? Voldemort's rule, kind of having a little bit of a flashback to maybe the Albanian forest would be great. Finding whatever Voldemort was at the time, which I'm pretty interested in, but having showing a little bit more about those flashbacks as he's explaining, I think would be really, really kind of a cool part if they're going to extend the show, which I think most books, if people love the books and know most of the story, they could be extended out into some
If they'll
episodic.
stay true to,
Right.
yeah.
I don't want to. I don't
story.
want them to start filling in things.
Yes.
There's enough in the books. Do what's in the books.
And leave the parts out that are left out so that you can find them out later.
Yeah.
She did
I
so
think
good
pretty
with
much. I think maybe this one would be the hardest one, but pretty much all of the books have some sort of episodic feel to them, to where every episode could end with like, oh, that I liked what happened. There's not a part in my third listen through, there's not a part I like to skip in this. There's not a part that I don't enjoy. I've enjoyed every single part, even knowing what's happening, knowing what's coming. I've enjoyed every part of these books. I don't want them to fill in thinking that they need to make a 12 episode when they could have gotten away with 10 or
Right.
8
Yes.
or whatever.
Don't extend it out more than it needs.
In fact, I think so. Sorcerer Stone, you could probably do that in 8 episodes. There's plenty of times, and I talked to you about when I first was talking you into writing or reading these. I like how rolling it will be like, not a lot happened over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, she does. Time
That's
skips
it.
great.
Such a great way of doing
she
that.
does.
Like, they went to school, they had classes. Like, we don't need to see that.
Yeah, how
you
she
don't need
extends out the whole year.
You don't need to fill in extra parts. This needs to circle around the Golden Trio and what's going on with him, because the books, until you get to Half-Blood Prince, are told almost entirely from the perspective of Harry. A little bit at the beginning of this with it being Dumbledore and Minerva dropping him off. But other than that, everything is told from the perspective of Harry. Because if you don't tell it from the perspective of Harry, you're going to know the secrets that you're supposed to find out. So people discovering this for the first time need to discover it how you do in the books, because it's from Harry's perspective.
Yes.
And so, that's I talked about it earlier when we were talking about this, but I wish I wouldn't know what was happening, because I would like to have found out, that Snape was supposed to kill Dumbledore because he asked him to, and that Snape didn't want to because he had grown to love Dumbledore.
Yeah, that's one of the parts I have a gripe with the movie about, because Alan Rickman tells Harry.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, in the book, Harry is completely blindsided.
Completely.
And goes after Severus
Right.
and tries to kill him with Sectum Sempra. And like he even says it, Avada, I think, before Severus dispels what he's trying to
Crucio.
do. Oh, it is Crucio. It gets Crucio out, and Severus does something else that just, like, he's so outmatched,
I would have liked a little bit more of a fight from Severus and Voldemort. I think Severus was such a good dueler, and you didn't get to see that. But I think he was such a good dueler because of Harry, because that part where he's chasing Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Everything Harry's doing is like, you can't touch me.
And
like,
don't use my how dare you use my spells against. Oh, it's
I think it would have been better if he would have put up a little bit more of a fight, or if he would have
against Voldemort,
like Harry did, knew that it had to happen, and so he succumbed to it anyway.
I think he was ready after Dumbledore was dead. I think he was ready to die. I think
Maybe.
his whole life, like his purpose is now fulfilled. He's helped Harry get to where he promised that he would help Harry get to.
I don't know, because he was fighting so hard to be the one to go get Harry. I think he was ready to tell Harry.
With the dough, you mean, or
No, when he was talking to Voldemort, and he kept saying, "Let me go get
let
the
me
boy.
go."
Let me go get Harry. I can bring him to you.
yeah, I
Let
think
me do
he
it."
was ready to.
I think he was ready to be like, "Look, this is what we've been planning." I think it would have been cool to have a little bit more, and maybe I think it would have been really cool. Now, I love Neville being the one to
He's
kill
a good
Nagini.
slow burn character where he's such a.
I love him to be the one to kill Nagini, but it would have been cool if Severus and Voldemort would have dueled, and Nagini and Voldemort attacked Severus, and Severus was able to fight him for a little bit and killed Nagini.
Yeah.
And then Voldemort killed him.
But that
would have been cool.
Severus wouldn't have had a way to kill Nagini because she was a Horcrux. She had to be killed by the Sword of Gryffindor or a basilisk tooth. Sorry, they'll have to wait till Deathly Hallows.
Sorry, that's that's true. That's a really cool part. Also, and it's in Deathly Hallows when he's talking, when he goes into the Pensive to see Snape's memories. When Dumbledore's talking to him, and I don't remember what he says, but he basically talks about how brave Snape has been, and Dumbledore says to him, "I think sometimes we sort too early. talking about
Yeah.
Snape should have been a Gryffindor instead of a Slytherin. I thought that was a really great
Yeah,
line.
that's a good one.
So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Again, I'm finishing the full cast audio right now for the first book. They're bringing out each one month to month. So in December we're going to have another one, The Chamber of Secrets. January we're going to have Prisoner of Azkaban, so on and so forth. But I'm hoping that it continues. Now, what I would say to anybody who hasn't done it, and again, I found this at 36 years old. You're 39.
Yeah.
I think they're
for
brilliant
that.
stories. I think they're really great. Well, we're nerds anyway, so we don't mind jumping into a fantasy thing.
I think I was 11 when the first book came out, and I think I was too cool for it. Like
You definitely were too cool. That's
Well,
what I've
I thought I
always
was.
said about you.
I wasn't too cool for
Too
it.
cool.
But I remember, I think, and this is going to counteract my too cool for it. I think Mom tried to read the books out loud to us. And we made it part of the way through the Sorcerer's Stone, and then we stopped.
Yeah.
Because I think we didn't show any interest in it. And man, I could have had, another. I'm a big Lord of the Rings geek, but I could have had a Harry Potter geek streak too. And my oldest, I think he read the Harry Potter books. He was reading so early. I think he read the Harry Potter books the first time all the way through when he was 8. And he read them over and over again. Just he'd start again at the beginning as soon as he was done. And I think I missed some really good conversations with him about it that I could have had, which I tried. I just didn't understand all the lore, and I had seen the movies.
Well, what I was going to say is if you are new to this and if you want to try reading them and you're not a reader like me, I'm not a book reader, except now I'm reading to Priscilla and Harvey at night. But I do strongly suggest not listening to the full cast audio as your first one, because if I didn't know the story, it's too busy. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Now that I like the story, I can see what's happening in my head. I know it well enough to kind of zone out some of the stuff that's going on, but they try to make it a little bit too busy in the background. Yeah. Again, I'm enjoying it.
I wish they just turn that. I always do that on video games too. I turn the SFX volume down.
Right.
And the speech up.
Right.
And I wish they'd do that in the second audiobook.
So I don't suggest that you're being your first read through. If you read through them and enjoy them and want to give them a second go, they are fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'll listen to the ones that Jim Dale did. I've heard that Stephen Fry's version of them is really good. Or reading through them, because again, I have found so many things that I didn't hear reading through them. And one of the things we'll talk about, well, a lot of the things we'll talk about in Goblet of Fire, because Goblet of Fire is the first of the big books and the really in-depth story.
And so much was missed.
Yeah, so much was missed in the movies. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes. So I hope you all liked this episode. We very much enjoy the Harry Potter movies. We will continue to listen to the books, the full cast audio as it comes out. But I'm just kind of listening to the books on repeat right now, so I'll be even more knowledgeable about it once we get to our next episode. So let us know if you all enjoyed this. Please please subscribe, share, all that other good stuff. Comment down below any theories that you all have or any thoughts that you all have.
Anything that we got wrong.
Because I'm sure we got a lot. But we've got the upcoming television show. We've got the full cast audio. We've got the movies to talk about, the books. So anything like that, please let us know what you all thought, what your favorite part of Sorcerer's Stone was, whether you liked the movie better or the book. All that stuff. We'd love to hear from you all, and we will be back. We'll try to make a little bit more of an outline. I think we're going to go, this was your idea, Evan, go a little bit more chapter by chapter for the Chamber of Secrets on the next one. And of course, we will discuss the following movies, because we can't just be like, hey, this happens in the Chamber of Secrets. We won't mention that something happens in the 7th book that has to do with that. So again, we hope you all enjoyed. This has been a very fun episode for me, and I could talk Harry Potter all day, but let us know what you all want to hear next. I am Zach.
I'm Evan.
And we are the Brothers BS.